We're the rebels of the digital age, rocking hard like the heroes on a rampage. There is an educational revolution in the air. We're here to show you we've got flair. Gotta raise the stakes, artificial and human minds. No time for mistakes, we're the pixel warriors, fighting side by side, diving deep into the code. Let the sparks collide. Level up your AI knowledge, let it flow through veins. There's nothing the future. Unleash the technology rings with every heart of master. We're one step closer to the sky. Level up your reality. It's the week of level up your reality. It's the week of AI.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Day 2, stream 2. My name is Erica Sandstrom, better known as Green Screen Gal, and I am so grateful and honored to be here again this year as a co-host and presenter. I'm excited for tonight because this presentation for me is the stuff I don't want to have to think about. Let someone else do it. So I'm really glad that we have this brilliant man here. You will love him. Just a couple little things just to remember to give a big shout out. We'd like to Swivel for our platinum sponsor for the week, and how their support makes this incredible journey totally possible for all of us, as well as Brisk for the t-shirts. Okay. Definitely want to get some swag if you're going to ISTE, because there's lots of cool social events you can get into if you have one. And we'd also like to say, for today's sponsor, thank Quizzes. That was so fun earlier playing with them. That is such an incredible platform. And so tonight kicking us off tonight, we have Andrew Easton, and it's called An AI and Education Update, the latest policies and practices. I'm going to bring him up, and then I'm going to read his bio and tell you all about this fabulous man. There he is. Yeah, we got the same shirt.
Hey, right. Thank you, Brisk. Thank you, Erica. And we're just excited to be here with everybody this evening.
Yeah, and let me brag about this man. He is a keynote speaker and presenter and consultant on personal learning, artificial intelligence, educational technology, and engagement strategies. He's authored Empowered to Choose, a practical guide to personalized learning. How cool is that? A book from Dave Burgess. Yay, Dave. Consulting, and we love Dave. And recently contributed a chapter on AI to Snapshot in Education 2023, a book from EduMaster Publishing. That's awesome. I heard about that book. Andrew also serves as a digital learning coordinator for Nebraska's ESUCC, lots of letters, where he's an education advocate, presenter, and host of the Good Life EDU podcast, which I can't wait to dive into as well. So thank you for being here, Andrew. I'm so excited.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to getting a chance to nerd out and speak on some topics that I'm really passionate about and ready to share. So you give me the cue, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm going to set you up here, and in the comments, everybody, I'm going to leave the map that we're going to have everybody fill out. And if you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate. Okay, I'm going to cue you up. There you go.
And there it is. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining for this session or watching this after the fact. And just really looking forward again to talking a little policy, a little practice, and doing that really from, I always tend to come from a classroom practitioner's lens, but have the opportunity to be exposed to different conversations through consulting and through the 9-to-5 work. So we'll speak from that. But the very first thing that I want to do, that I always do, is just try to start off speaking to the why. And so whether you're watching this in real time or after the fact, I would encourage you to take a second to just reflect on who it is that has inspired you to become an educator. And I think that is a really important place as we talk about AI to reflect, to think about those kind of things, because for all of us, as I work with teachers often, they point to a teacher that was a great example, or a coach that really supported them, or a teacher that they wanted to prove wrong in some cases. But it tends to be some sort of an adult that inspired them to be a part of this profession. And from my own personal story, I look no further than my name, I guess is where I could start this. I am Andrew Easton IV. I'm named after my dad and grandfather before me, who were both teacher coaches as well. And so I joke sometimes it's kind of the family business. And I wanted to go into this profession because I saw the profound impact that they had on learning and on kids and their future from a very early age. And because of that, I was very passionate about becoming an educator myself, and I'm grateful for it. And as we talk about AI and in the week of AI, it's important, I think, to stay grounded in the idea that the best things in life aren't things, and that it is people, and that people will continue to matter and be the connection piece that's necessary for kids to learn and to learn in community and to be inspired intrinsically. There's a part that connects with that, but also to pursue careers and future learning and opportunities because of the folks that are in their life. And so I'd be remiss not to bring that part out. So then let's get into it. Let's talk a little artificial intelligence here as we move forward in our time together this evening. And one thing that I know to be true is that there are a lot of opinions out there about AI technology. And so it's worth kind of acknowledging those from the start and saying that, yes, maybe this isn't the message for people that are at the Week of AI event, but for some, they're a little nervous, a little concerned, a little worried. Others, it's not that big a deal. They're kind of chill, kind of cool about it. And then there are those folks that would just be content with putting their head in the ground and hope that this never comes near their block, near their work, near the things that they're doing, or the people that they love. And if I want to get a little bit candid on the front end of things, I would say that there are things about this technology that I think are fascinating and cool and inspiring, and I love. And there are also things that I'm concerned about, I get anxious about, that I'm worried for, and downright just dislike in some instances. And in some use cases is probably the better way of saying that. And so I sort of emotionally fall along a spectrum based upon the context in which I'm thinking about this technology, not the education tech tools necessarily, but some of these technologies more broadly. And so what I want to do is make space for everybody to start there. And then at the same time say that, and the reality is that this technology is here and it's not going away, whether Andrew Easton wants it to or not. And I love the potential that it's affording us. So and the opportunity to kind of lean into that. Looks like my videos are not maybe loading all the way like that. There should have been an eye on that previous slide, but pressing on. That said, this is my fam. When I think about the reality of AI, I think about them. That my daughter, who is 13, my son, who's 10, and my wife and I, who are expecting twins, actually, at this point in time, in the next 3 weeks, we're going to have 4 kiddos growing up in a future where AI is going to be woven into the fabric of their learning experiences, their day-to-day lives, and their workplace. And so this isn't something that we can ban or dismiss, or again stick our head in the sand. We have to really be thoughtful about how we support these folks and all kids as they grow up into this future where AI is going to be embedded into so many things. And so I already got the introduction, so I can leave that part out, but really grateful that I get the chance to work in my 9-to-5 role, serving the service agencies across Nebraska, with the tech integrationists and staff developers there. My role tonight, though, is wearing a different hat as I get to, talk a little bit about this topic and some of the things that I'm passionate about, and more of that speaker consultant role. So learning outcomes from our time, I would just say let's grow in our awareness of some of the current ed tech, the tools, the policies, the guidance. I've got a resource, like a support document that I shared at the beginning of this. I would really recommend you checking out because I put all the links for everything that I'm going to touch upon tonight in that. And so you can access that as a reference because I'd rather touch upon a myriad of things and go a little deep into each, giving you the chance to explore those that are most relevant to you later, rather than spend a ton of time on one thing that isn't going to serve you. So we'll cover a lot of ground. And acknowledging too how rapidly this technology is evolving is a big part of these learning outcomes, because that sets the table for considering what this means for schools, teaching, learning, and students. And so that's where we're going to go. So quick disclaimer, I'm here to share ideas, learning, and resources. And these are definitely suggestions, but not necessarily things that you have to take to heart. I would encourage that you, before you implement anything, that you ask those around you and use your own discretion and think about that using your own judgment, local context, etc. Here we go. Okay. I love getting a chance to talk about AI with other folks. And one of my favorite opportunities that I had to do this was over a year ago, or about a year ago, I guess at this point, when I had the good fortune to go and present a breakout session at Cornhusker Boys State, right in Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska. And for those that are not familiar with that particular event, Cornhusker Boys State is where, and you can see the number of students seated in the picture up in the top left. Junior and senior boys from across the state are selected, they apply, and then they are accepted into a program that for a week takes them to the Capitol, and they do a lot of learning there. This is a practice that's done in a lot of states. I was not familiar with it until that day, but I had about 100 students show up for that session. And what was great is that they loved the experience so much that they made it the headliner on their bulletin the very next day. They kind of make like a daily recap of what they did the day before. And so during that time, we got to discuss a few topics and things like artificial intelligence and generative AI and making the distinction between those. And so not to assume that people know terms, I'm going to do kind of two things at once here. And I'll also see maybe three things. See if the tech works to where it'll play this video. And then in addition to that, define these terms. So I'm going to press play. And this is a video that is an avatar of an avatar that is going to speak out content that I created in ChatGPT 4. And we'll just see if
Artificial intelligence, AI, is the broad technology enabling machines to perform tasks that usually require human intelligence. These tasks include language translation, decision-making, and visual perception. Generative AI is a type of AI designed to create new content, such as text, images, and sounds, by learning from large datasets. It can generate responses, create realistic simulations, and innovate based on its training.
All right, so there's the audio from that piece. Did not see the avatar, so I'm guessing that has something to do with the lag between sharing a window and playing a video and StreamYard. But we will continue to press on. So this is technology that creates, and I absolutely love that. And I think that it's important, or what I tried to illustrate through the avatar was that it's important to establish for school leaders and other educators that this is not limited necessarily just to chatbots and text, right? As we're continuing to find out. And then we also talked that day in Lincoln about misuse of generative AI. And so to give you an example, and also to kind of model again ways in which you could leverage this technology to do some interesting things, I created some content in ChatGPT 4 that I did then add into Speechify and had a voice from Speechify read that out loud. So let's see if you can identify that voice.
Generative AI has the power to create highly realistic, and actors can misuse this technology to generate convincing but false representations of individuals saying or doing things they never did. This is possible because generative AI learns from vast amounts of data and can mimic a person's voice, facial expressions, and movements with high accuracy. Such misuse can lead to misinformation, damage reputations, and undermine trust in digital media. Educators should be aware of these risks to guide students in critically evaluating media sources.
And while you maybe guessed the voice that you think you heard there, when I go to the Speechify site, this voice is identified as Mr. President only. And it makes me wonder, though, I know on that site, because there are pictures of Mr. Beast and Gwyneth Paltrow and Snoop who have also lent their voice to this technology, so for it to replicate and then be able to read things out loud. I'm not quite sure that Mr. President, whoever that was, did so. And so, especially in an election year, it calls into question, some of these different uses. If I can do this with a program that costs about $10 a month, uh, that tells you what's possible with this technology. And again, some of the things that we have to protect students from and consider as we're processing new media at any time moving forward. And so, last story from that day, as I shared a number of things that day, one of the things that I asked was, how many of you have used ChatGPT for your schoolwork? And as I looked around the room at the 100 students that were there, it was striking to me to watch hands go up to my left and to my right and in the middle. And at the end, only about 3 hands were not in the air. And I think it's important to say again that this was in June 7th of 2023, which means this was last school year, right? In Nebraska, across the state, all demographics and or spots represented in that space. So I bring that up and want to stress that, because a part of my heart for this work comes from the fact that students are using this technology and have been for a year and a half at this point. And I don't want to end up in a situation that's similar to the pitfalls that we experienced as we brought digital citizenship around the internet and social media's the advent of those pieces. Because what happened was that students got access, they made a bunch of mistakes, and we spent years through DigCit initiatives using scare tactics, essentially, to try to talk students out of some of the bad practices that they established before students found spaces to learn more intentionally how to protect themselves from the dangers of that technology and to lean into the positives. And now we get into global citizenship and all the things that digital citizenship should have been for and about from the start. And so I just hope that we don't follow a similar path, or at least cut that off earlier with AI, because I see its potential for good. And I hope that we can teach students how to get in those spaces. And so the things that we have to work with them on and through include things like student data privacy, academic integrity, concerns with copyright laws, and what does it really look like if a machine generates something? To what degree am I able to use that, and in what context? Lack of control over AI responses, hallucinations, biases, all of these things and more, right? And we know that a number of these tech tools have gotten infinitely better than they were a year ago, but those concerns are still there. And we want to make sure that they're informed users of these tools. And that really leads us to the policy conversation, right? So let's kind of focus on that portion of our message for our time here. And again, videos that won't load. But I will say that let's kind of think of this more as like a nesting doll. And I remember when I was in the classroom, I was probably blissfully unaware of all the different levels that were in support of what was going on at that classroom level. And I would wonder sometimes, well, what is federal policy or guidance or these? And so maybe to kind of set the stage for us, I would say that let's think of it again, nesting doll. So that federal level and some of the things that we'll consider there's policy and there's guidance. The policy are the formal regulations from the Department of Ed or Congress that set rules for AI use, like privacy law and compliance and funding conditions. And so those are going to be more like rules, where AI guidance is going to focus more on things that are like recommendations from federal agencies on things like ethical use or data management, curriculum integration, and they're aimed more at effective and ethical implementation, which is a little bit different than the focus at the state level. And so again, understanding those terms are different, policy and guidance. And so to give some examples of what that might look like, I would imagine that most educators are familiar with one or two or multiple of these federal policies that are listed here. As it pertains to AI, I think about things like the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, for example, so COPA, that when you're talking about student work, that is something that we as a public education system want to protect and make sure that students, especially under the age of 13, that their information and that student work is not going to companies or into the wrong hands. And so we really need to make sure that we are focused on protecting their privacy, right? And so that's a bit of what that piece gets at as it pertains to AI. And so if you look at a number of the chatbots, for example, that are out there, you'll see that there's the distinction that you have to be 18 to use this or 13 to use this. And those are in place to kind of fall in line with this federal policy that is a rule and does have teeth behind it. In addition to that, and to maybe show that this doesn't always have to be guardrails and somewhat punitive, there's things like the Every Student Succeeds Act that ensures that all students have equitable learning opportunities and experiences as best as we can manage. And when I think about the potential that AI has for us at the classroom level to do that in new ways, creative ways, innovative ways, it is powerful to think about tying that to trying to serve this federal policy, right? And so absolutely love that piece of it. And then when we start to then shift to things like federal guidance, there is guidance from the U.S. Department of Ed Tech. And so I would certainly encourage you to check that out. If you'd like a shortened version of that, as it is quite lengthy, have been groups that have done summary documents. So you can check that out on the link that's provided. And those are also, again, when you say like provided, where are those at? If you're just joining us, those are in the resources I'll share at the end. That I also had up there as we started the session. In addition to that, the National Ed Tech Plan just came out in January. And as such, there is a number of efforts being made at the state level, but obviously then nationally to live out those aims. And I was grateful that one of the leads of that project, Zach Chase, joined me for an episode for our podcast where we got to go through and kind of give a summary. So call it 25, 30 minutes on what that plan entailed, the process of putting it together, and really the hopes of that effort. So definitely check those resources out to the degree that you're interested. So nesting doll level number 2, we get to AI policy and education at the state level. Yes, there is policy. Yes, there is guidance again. And some of those state laws come from things that get passed in a state legislature, for example, that might speak to things like tool procurement, data privacy again, but then even teacher trainings being mandatory, not for AI, but another effort. I recently was part of a project that was bringing one of those types of teacher trainings to fruition. So the states certainly have the opportunity to do that. That's not what we've seen up to this point in time, where more of the resources that have been provided have been on AI guidance, so state level laws that govern those kind of things. So that said, I would like to share with you Nebraska's state level AI guidance. All right. And oh, Erica, you're on mute.
Sorry. I don't know why that's happening. You have Canva, right?
I know. Yeah.
Are they showing up on your screen at all, or they're not?
They're not. I'm not really sure what's going on with
gosh.
those, but it's okay. The reason this slide is blank is also because there is no guidance from Nebraska just yet.
Oh, okay. I just ruined your whole bit. All right, I'm out.
There's also like a video almost on every slide that isn't working, but that's okay. So that's great. No disrespect to my home state. I just say that all in fun because there are not a whole lot of states who have released state level guidance yet. So if you go back to September, so if you think about the start of this current school year, there were 2 states. And so most policy, as we'll explore here in a minute, was established without state level guidance. And even at this point in time, there are only 13 states that have provided guidance whatsoever. And so it's hard. It's tough to do. This technology has changed dramatically. And so that is not an indictment, right, against any of these different state departments who are working hard at this. It just, there are a number of things to focus on, and being able to figure out exactly the stance you want to take is a challenge. David, you are lucky to be in North Carolina. There is some amazing stuff coming out of there. So no surprise, I actually selected North Carolina here as one to lift up. West Virginia as well, right? Anyone that has put in the time, effort, energies to get to this place is terrific. I'm actually excited. In June, I'll be able to go and be a part of an event in North Carolina for a keynote down there. So I'm looking forward to that, and have been learning a lot about your state. So that said, I wanted to, I have it at the bottom here. I got a number of these pieces from a source that I was researching, that talk to some of the differences between these two, for example. And I thought this might be instructive because you might think, well, how different could these policies be, right? Are they not just looking at each other's respective set of policies and just making a variation for their state? And I'm sure to some degree that is true, but then you also have like the creative liberties to do something a little different at times. So, for example, between these two states, they both acknowledge the AI's potential impact on learning, and I think most states will. Both cite the need for safe use policies, many of which follow conversations that we referenced here in this talk today. Both provide links to curriculum and instructional resources, and so just trying to be able to create as much of that as possible, so that folks have examples to look at and different ways of thinking that instructs their potential like thinking at that local district level. And then for both to rely on external expertise so far, because while there is a lot of great professional learning that can be done by walking down the hall and stepping into another teacher's classroom and learning from them, this is so new that I'm sure that happens and is available some places, but it's not going to be as readily available. And so it is going to require districts to find some external expertise to help out. So how could these be different, for example? So a couple things between these two. It was interesting to see the different stances that they took on things like AI plagiarism, what constitutes plagiarism. And so this might even really get down into like the third bullet here and how to address it. You know, is it a thing that's punitive? Like you do something and then we respond, or are we going to focus more on, like bullet number 2 here says, the implementation of and need for AI literacy? Because if we can teach students how to use this in a positive way that supports their learning and doesn't replace it and enhances it instead, then there might be use cases that we wouldn't have to ban, block, punish for, right? I guess you can kind of bring all those pieces together if you think about it that way. And the questions that come up with this, though, are, is AI literacy something that gets taught in computer science? Well, yeah. Is it something that gets taught in math and science? Is it taught during library time? Is it taught in all subjects? These are all questions that states are wrestling with in terms of the recommendations that they're going to make, and districts are going to have to ask those same questions. In this approach to acceptable use cases for students and what it means to those ends is also very nuanced and interesting, because the way in which you leverage some of this technology for a class like math might be very different from how you use it for writing an essay in English. And so it's interesting to kind of think about some of that stuff too. Looking in the chat here, I do have the link to North Carolina's guidance in the resource. So feel free, David, to send it over if you got it. That would be awesome. But I'll provide that as well, because I have found that to be really interesting to go through. So why set all of this stuff up? Well, because as classroom practitioners, or folks that are in support of classroom practitioners, or as consultants coming in to help out, this is the context within which we're operating, right? Like decisions that are made at those other levels of this nesting doll ultimately are going to have an impact here. And I want to kind of give some apologies maybe in advance. I want to do a very quick, here's sort of the scenario that a lot of districts find themselves in. I'm not trying to be critical in any way with this. If it's lighthearted, it's meant just for levity on an otherwise kind of heavy or serious topic. So I'm just going to roll through this in a way that hopefully is more fun than it might otherwise be. And so here we go. Most educators are going, okay, locally, like where are we at? What's going on? And I'm going to take you on a little like trip back again to June of last year. And at that time, whenever we're trying to get our minds around what the heck this technology looks like, because as we know from today's conversation already, students were working on with AI technology for schoolwork, and in learning about that, which maybe happened, you know, for some places even as early as like December or January, most school leaders started to learn about that at the end of the school year. And they're like, wait, what? Well, you can imagine that it led to a bit of a panic. And it did for teachers too, right? What does this mean for essays and homework and all the things that we still are wrestling with? And so I don't want to minimize, again, any of these like stressors. They absolutely were. But at that time, we were really concerned about being able to, what this technology would do for some of those time-honored traditions in education and means of assessment. And as administrators, folks were like, we're going to do something about this. And so the action was, and the knee-jerk reaction perhaps in June, was to say, let's block it. And I don't want to be overly critical about that, because it also stemmed from the fact that so many of these tools, again, were ones that uh, we had to protect student data and protect students and misinformation and all the things that we've listed already. And so that was the natural pivot. But, as educators got a little more steeped in it and did a little more professional learning, and folks continue to learn over the course of the summertime, you started to see at least the potential that was there, and also the fact that this technology wasn't going away. And so with all those pieces brought together, we're like, wait a minute. We might not want to block this entirely in our district. Let's just block this for students. Yeah, let's just do that. And great, right? Again, this falls very much in line with the thinking to this point, that you would want to protect students, but give staff the opportunity to learn about this through trial and error and see where it supports what they're doing. And that student use then, though, is still something that we have to address. And you're like, wait, why? Because, again, there's still the opportunity for them to utilize this outside of class time or on their devices. And we want to support their thinking. And so we went in search of answers. And for most folks, by August, there was a need to sort of turn to what is going to be the legal precedent that we can put in place that puts some guardrails up to just protect the district as it pertains to these things. I don't think this is unique to local context here. Wow, this is kind of what it's looked like, right? District policies, again, these things end up before school boards, they get approved and put into place, tend to share things like this. They define artificial intelligence, give you opportunities and challenges that come along with that, which we have seen that at all the different levels of our nesting egg here, nesting dolls. And then, for example, they'll give some permissible uses. And so this is maybe a little bit more conditional to, and varies different to district to district. For example, the AI must be identified and communicated prior to or along with the introduction of assignment as it pertains to students, right? That a teacher would need to teach that or teach model expectations for AI use. And one of the early questions that came up was, well, what tools are out there and what professional learning can we do to come around understanding how this technology works to first, one, understand that it's safe, and then two, to teach model expectations. Like, what does model expectations mean? All great questions, right? And so, citing the proper use of AI and speaking to how much of that maybe it influenced or remained in the final product. All of those things are things that districts started to parcel out. I'm going to point out one, though, actually, in the midst of this that we can kind of use as a talking point as we think about the impact that this might have moving forward. For example, I've seen this often where it says no work is to be copied and pasted directly into student work as if the student wrote, created, and represented as their own. I understand the spirit of this, especially last summer, if this is when this was put together, right? We're trying to paste things straight out of chatbots. However, we know that we're able to take a student's work and ask it to go through and make, let's just say, like grammatical corrections, for example, something that spell check or Grammarly have done consistently for years. Would that be in violation of this policy if you copy and pasted that back in after you pasted your work in to begin with? Yes. As I read this, at least it's worth a discussion. So with those kind of pieces in place from last year, we kind of arrived, and I understand the school year for many starts in August, but let's just say that as the school year got fully underway in September, schools are all over the board, with some having no policies, and others had policies that banned student use, and others that restricted student use, and others had maybe a little more thoughtful. I think I even saw it in the chat that some people said, we as a team got together and got a chance to do this based upon. Those are all very different experiences that lead to very different products. And the thing that we all will have to kind of work through is that for policy to change in districts, the administrator oftentimes has to come up with an alternative, present that to the school board, and then it gets voted on, right? And then you change the policy. And once a policy is in place, it's not always a fun thing to revisit that, bring that back up, and then try to change or pivot from that. And so that's creates an interesting condition for trying to move things forward. And so actually, I'll let folks address this in the chat in the interest of time. I'm going to kind of press on, actually, but thinking about just what are the challenges posed if one of these scenarios is already in place in writing as policy, what barriers does that present given your new learning since last year when this was put together about being able to leverage this for all the things that we've talked about up to this point in time? So I see the chat. Some people are commenting, and great. I really appreciate folks sharing their ideas there. So these various scenarios, set the stage for our classroom practices this year, and the tech really kind of followed suit. I won't spend forever on these first two, but I felt like this year, in terms of national narrative, these 5 topics have sort of bubbled up more prominently at different times, though I can point to people that were using specialized chatbots as early as the start of last school year, right? But it's kind of felt like this has been the general flow for onboarding, maybe is a better way to frame some of this. And I won't spend forever, but I will say, that one conversation that people tend to continue to be interested in is to say, okay, which of these large scale generalist chatbots are out there and which one would you recommend? And honestly, I would use any of these almost interchangeably for different purposes. So if I'm working with Google stuff, let's stay with Gemini. If I'm working with Copilot, Microsoft, PowerPoint and those kind of things, let's go with Copilot, etc. ChatGPT 4 is what I use most often. And Claude 3, according to several sources, has recently surpassed and taken the crown for the moment. And so it's interesting to think about those. It's good to bring up again that most of these models, 13 years old with parental permission and 18 to use this on their own. And so you're not going to maybe just yet see a lot of students using this technology without some of those pieces in place. So worth knowing that and considering it. If you have not checked out OpenAI's ChatGPT 4o, O standing for omnimodal, highly recommend that you do that. This was released yesterday, so I'm living up to the promise here today of we're going to get the latest, because this, as far as I know, just came out in the last 24 hours. So it is sort of that multimodal capability realized. And what I love is that the video here and ones that I have later in the slides illustrates that there's like a live audience watching this. So it's not a production piece, or at least giving you the perception that it's not. So love that. Check that out. Teacher tools throughout, I would say the fall in particular, and we've watched these tools evolve. There have been your CuraPod, Magic School AI, Diffit, EduAid, it would be another one. It was a sponsor, and numerous others. Did everything from creating slides, interactive slide creation. None of these videos are going to play, so I'll just kind of continue to roll through them. We know that Magic School provides that platform of different options that are assigned to different teacher tasks. David, I'm with you. I like CuraPod as well, and it's pivoted so much, and that's what has been really fun to follow. And then there was a season where Diffit was referenced a little bit more than I hear it referenced now, and I know that they put up some pay-for features that maybe brought a different audience, is probably the right way to be sensitive and say that. But what's been interesting is to see how some of these companies that have started with one aim in mind have grown. And CuraPod, and maybe David, feel free to continue to comment, and others as well, is that I absolutely love that they're starting to make some more student-facing opportunities for exit tickets, bell ringers, and the like. And then Magic School, same. So Magic Student is something that's in beta that I would highly recommend you checking out, especially if you're a School AI fan. And it's interesting to watch them all sort of adapt to different options that are prevalent in other ones that are out there. So the theme, though, being through that season, if we want to call these even like AI eras, was that teacher-facing AI tools that create efficiencies and enhance the effectiveness of lesson design was the aim. But here's where I'm going to be at, and I'm going to have to really hurry here, but I'll say I kind of talk on both sides of my mouth when I get to this place, and I'm sorry, and I just want to say that on the one hand, I love that we're working on teacher efficiencies. I'm going to put a caveat in there and say I was not in the habit of doing detailed lesson plans ahead of actually implementing a lesson, and maybe I'm alone in that. So some of those efficiencies weren't quite as beneficial as maybe they get billed as being. But anything that can save teachers time, I absolutely love. and appreciate and know for our mental health and well-being and the challenge that is being in that job, we need tools like this. And what I really hope is that we're not leveraging these brilliant tools in terms of what they can do to support learning and education to make worksheets more efficient and effective to develop, right? And so like finding kind of that balance between let's take the efficiencies piece, let's get onboarded. It's almost like a progression, right? And let's see what it can do with where we are, but let's not stop dreaming about where we're going to go next with these technologies. And I love that the tech is following that. AI prompting, highly recommend you check that out because I feel like educators came to a place, and Magic School actually integrated this as a pay feature because I think that this is very beneficial, is when you can go, okay, now that I know how this works and that I know all the different ways in which I can leverage this tool, I'm going to go actually back to more of my like chatbots scenarios where I can then go, okay, create the questions, create the directions, create the rubric, and create, and you can just build all those in a row, and really love that. So I have an example of that here, but again, my videos are probably not working. In my resources, I have the AI Classrooms Prepare framework. So if you're looking to figure out how to write a prompt and do a little of that prompt engineering work, check that out. And of course, AI for Education's Prompt Library, awesome resource for. I think it kind of sits in a unique place in between those two. It gives you the breadth that you kind of see from like Magic School, but still functions in that chatbot space. AI literacy, in the interest of time, this might be the one that I kind of breeze over. I was hoping to get a little bit of almost like Twitter-esque or X, I guess, esque chat support for this one in the chat. If you'd like to address any of these questions about things like what does AI literacy entail or address, what might be some crucial, why might it be crucial for educators and students to be knowledgeable about AI, and then what resources would you share? Just kind of anything related to AI literacy, we'll touch upon that. The resources that I would share, I have really appreciated getting into Common Sense Media's AI literacy, and there's lessons for students actually as well. So if you don't feel confident teaching those pieces, that you can do that. And also Stanford's craft AI literacy and resources. So now to the specialized piece and some of the things I think are incredibly fun. School AI, I saw it in the
Hello there.
one of my faves.
Did you know that an AI named AlphaGo defeated a world champion in the game of Go?
Can you all hear
A task
this?
thought nearly impossible for computers due to the game's complexity. What are your thoughts on machines achieving such feats?
What School AI is the oh, awesome. Thanks, Amanda.
That's perfectly okay. When you hear artificial intelligence, what comes to mind? Anything from movies, games, or maybe something you've read?
And again, in the interest of time, I'm going to pause it. School AI allows you to create what they call spaces, where you can essentially craft a chatbot experience for your students to access and then learn through dialogue essentially with that. And what's phenomenal, and I love it from my personalized learning lens, is that each student's conversation is different and can bring up different examples and make different connections. And it supports all of those while still directing you back to the topic and ensuring that the essential pieces of learning happen. If you go, I could program something like that, you don't really have to be too scared about it because it does do a little bit of the plug and play piece, a little help. Access their AI assistants, one of which properly, you could say, hey, help me write the thing I need to enter in for the space to make sure that it does the thing I want it to do. That's super helpful. And in addition to those features, I love my son, for example, at 10 years old, any Google search or any sort of thing that he does online, he speaks rather than typing it in. And so to be able to hit the speak feature and be able to also talk, which I illustrate later in this video, is a huge help for him. And I have examples, but I'm gonna have to like sit on those for a minute. Magic School has Magic Student, which is doing the same. It's really important for both of those examples to say that these allow the teacher also to have access to all those conversations. So if inappropriate language comes up or a student says something about self-harm, they're alerted immediately. And so there's some accountability, but the students don't. They're asked to enter their name, maybe similar to how folks might be familiar with something like a Kahoot. So it doesn't necessarily track the individual student's name and data in the same way that all of the concerns that we've alluded to earlier. So Love Comigo and the aim that they have. It's worth saying that if you have Canvas, there's going to be a Canvas integration for Comigo to be able to support anything, basically, starting next school year. So look into that. GPT-4o has a tutor piece with it also. Super cool. Go look at that video if you haven't seen it. Love Brisk teaching. I'm going to just press play and hope that this thing goes because it gives you feedback. And you basically can go in and just hit, and it stopped. Hit targeted. You can upload the rubric and it will provide comments on the writing that go right along with that. So shout out to Brisk for the t-shirt and for an amazing, amazing tool that is super helpful for writing support. Former English teacher myself. I love it. And look at TeachFX. I like the potential of that tool. So I'm not saying go and use it tomorrow, maybe. But what it does is a teacher on their device can press record their lesson. And in doing that, then we'll get feedback from the audio that encompasses everything from how much time the teacher talked, how much time the students talked, how much wait time was provided. And it's a little bit at this phase focused on those types of pieces, but you get day-to-day instructional feedback. Wow, what a great place for this technology maybe to grow and go. So now what, to kind of bring this to a close, I would hope everybody would be able to establish a district AI policy, create opportunities for professional learning so that you can live those dreams out and cultivate a growth mindset, because this stuff's going to change as it has over the course of this year. And we're going to need to change with it. And I really love Teach AI's foundational policy ideas as a support toolkit to help you do that. So please look into that. I hope that you got a chance to gain some new awareness for current AI tech tools, policy guidance, got a sense of how rapidly this stuff is changing and what this means for all of us. We have a conference that's free. So if you want to do some additional learning, Amanda Bickerstaff's going to keynote that actually. So I saw that come up in the chat. And our podcast is something where we try to have episodes on that consistently. So, and we're going to have a lot of our folks from that conference there. Done with all those plugs. I will say, I hope that you remember who inspired you to become an educator each and every day and be that person for other folks. Thanks. It was great to have the opportunity. Erica, appreciate it. And,
yes, and I sorry I didn't write more in the box.
1 minute over.
I actually show up as Amanda when I when I type. So I was like, I got to be careful what I type. But no, it was great. It was wonderful. I wrote down so many tools. I can't. My head's spinning. And I love that you're talking about the things that people don't necessarily, want to. I don't know if I want to say deal with, but like you do it in such a pleasant way that I can't wait to show this to my superintendent. And I'm probably going to be reaching out to find out more about Massachusetts, so I can sound intelligent when I try to get him to do this. I got to get Massachusetts going here, or at least Peabody.
Yeah, Eric, we all got to come together around these conversations for this to really scale in a place that's equitable and ensures the future I would want for everybody. So thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Erica. Thanks, everyone. Really fun to connect.
Yeah, people chimed in. At first, it was just us, and then all of a sudden, all these people, they must have heard the good word. Here they come. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And I'm actually next. That's make me a little nervous. Hoping my links work, but definitely stay tuned and definitely keep checking out the other streams as well and the replay. So thank you so much, and we will move on to more.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Hello and welcome to the Premium AI Strategy Accelerator, the ultimate program for schools, colleges and universities and businesses that want to lead in the AI revolution. Before you apply, let me tell you how this program works. Who is this program for? We focus on helping a hand-picked team of 6 to 10 change makers in your organization. And this elite innovation squad will become your internal startup, pioneering AI-driven solutions that define your organization's future.
Okay, that ended. I wasn't watching. All right, everybody. Thank you.